crazy is it that this is probably the last YouTube video I am ever going to make in this house, in this homeschool room? Like, this is the room that started it all. If you go back and you look at my original videos from like 4 years ago, we didn't even know if we were really going all in on homeschooling. And it's just so crazy, like, look how far we've come. So it's a little bittersweet. We are so excited to move and start our new journey, but I definitely have a strong connection to this room specifically. All of the things that my kids learned throughout the years, all those light bulb moments that happened in this room, like, it does just have a special place in my heart. But that is not what I came here to talk to you all about today. I'm actually going to teach you a trick, something that I do in my homeschool with my own daughters that I actually started doing when I was a teacher. This little trick is to really help the kids take ownership of their own work and check through all of their answers before they turn in something or before they say they're done. Now, the way that we run things in our homeschool is that as soon as they finish an activity for the day, now I'm holding up our math light unit, this is with Christian Light Education, but we do this with all the curriculums that we use. When they finish an activity for the day, I check it immediately. So that is the difference between being a teacher, where I would take all the papers home, I'd grade them, and then my kids would get them back the next day or a couple days later, and we would never have time to talk about it, right? So in the homeschool, I check their stuff immediately, and when there is something that is incorrect or something that we need to talk about or work on, they're gonna correct it right there in the moment. I don't want us waiting a whole day or a whole 2 days. I don't want it to slip their mind. I want them to correct it right in that moment. However, here's where the trick comes in. I'm gonna show you an example with math, but again, you can do this with any of the subjects. Math seems to be the easiest, math and language arts, which both we use with Christian Light Education. So these workbooks make it really easy to go through and do this little trick that I'm gonna show you all. So I'm gonna explain it real quick, and then I'm gonna actually turn the camera around and show you specifically what this looks like. But when my daughter, I'm gonna use my oldest daughter as an example, when she says that she is finished with something and I immediately go and I check it, I am not going through with my pen or my marker or whatever and marking the specific things that she's getting wrong. I'm actually gonna do one of two things. If we have enough time, I prefer to do it this way. If we have enough time, I will actually give her the book back and I'll be like, go check page number 2. I don't tell her what number, I don't tell her what section, I literally just say, go check page number 2. And of course, her natural response in the beginning especially was, well, which one on page 2, right? They're like panicking because they don't want to have to go back and check the whole page. If we're a little strapped for time, I will just say, hey, go back and check this section, but I don't tell her specifically what number she needs to go check. Now, before I show you what this actually looks like, why do I do this? It is so important for them, especially when they become adults or when they get into college and they're submitting these big assignments, to go back and check their work. This was a problem when I was a teacher. This is a problem now as a homeschool mom. It's just a kid thing, right? They want to get it done, they want to turn it in, and they don't want to look at it again. But they need to get in the habit of going back and checking. And she knows that when I give her that entire book back and I say, hey, go check page number 2, that's gonna take a lot of time, right? She knows, oh my gosh, I gotta go back and I gotta check the whole page. Well, she doesn't want to do that anymore, right? Eventually they're like, okay, I don't want to turn this in until I know everything's good, because I don't want to have to go back and spend all that time checking the whole page over. This also helps them to take ownership of their work. The questions that she is super confident in, she's confident in her answers. A lot of times she'll just skim over those, right? Because she knows I'm confident in those. But it requires her to self-assess when she gets to a problem where she's like, I was kind of questioning that one when I was doing it. Let me go back and read the directions. Like, it almost forces her to self-assess and kind of think back to when she was doing the problem originally and which one she really knew and which one she struggled with. So let me show you what this looks like. So I'm actually going to show you an example from the lesson that we did today. So this is the 2nd grade of Christian Light Education math. We are on the 2nd workbook, so basically the beginning of 2nd grade. She did her entire activity today, and when I was going back and checking her activity, I noticed that for this question right here, she had to circle 2 groups that you could not split equally. In other words, something with an odd number, right? So she got that part correct. However, down here, you can see it says, do the circled groups have even numbers or odd numbers? And she circled even. So as I'm checking through her entire light unit, now mind you, their math lessons are pretty long. They're like 4 pages long, right? So as I'm checking her math work today, I notice that she gets this one incorrect. Now notice that is the only thing on this whole page that she got incorrect. But I'm not gonna tell her that. I want her to take ownership of this entire lesson, all of the work that she did. And as frustrating as it might be that she only got one one thing wrong and I'm making her go back and check the entire thing, she's gonna remember this next time, right? Instead of just turning something in and not going back and checking, now she's gotta go back and do more work to check the whole thing. And let me tell you, when she went back and checked this, it was a struggle. She's like looking up here, she's looking here, she's like, I feel like I got them all right. So I did guide her a little bit more and I said, I really want you to go back and read the directions for each section, like specifically focus on the directions. And then she eventually realized her mistake, and she did admit to me that when she was doing this page, she was a little confused about that question. Now, why is this important? Because when she was doing this question independently, she should have come to me immediately and been like, hey mommy, I can't figure this out, or can you explain this to me? Like, I want her to grab me in the moment. Instead, she thought she was slick, 50% chance, right? She just circled a random one, closed the book and said she was done. So I'm so glad that she ended up getting this wrong, because this opened up conversation for us to talk about what this means, how this is worded, what they're asking. She knows her even and odds. It was the way that it was worded that was throwing her off. I'll show you another example here. This is with her reading. This is Christian Lit Education 2nd grade reading. And with the reading, they have everything broken down into sections. So you can see right here, section A, section B, and each section has multiple questions involved. So for section A, she had to do 4 different problems. So for section A, she had 1 problem, but 4 different things she had to focus on. Now, she's already since corrected this, but for this one, instead of telling her to go back and check the whole page, I just marked the section wrong, and it requires her to go back and check each one and then eventually correct her mistake. Or sometimes we won't physically correct it and we'll just kind of talk about it, but I want her to be able to catch her own mistakes and for us to have that dialogue about what's going on there. If I would have just told her, hey, this one's wrong, well, she's just gonna erase that and underline the other syllable, you know what I mean? It's not really requiring her to think about why this is wrong. So just by marking the section wrong, not the specific problem, it's really empowering her to take ownership of her own work. I know some of you might be thinking like, this is a little harsh, like you're causing too much frustration. I am old school. Like, I am old school when it comes to teaching and learning and taking ownership for your mistakes. Does this result in tantrums and tears? Honestly, in the beginning, my kids were very upset and sometimes we would have tears with this, but not because it's hurting their self-esteem. They're in tears because they don't want to have to do more work. But if you can just get through that hump in the beginning, when they learn your expectations, like my kids know that if you get something incorrect, you're gonna have to go back and check the whole page. That's just the expectation now. They don't fight me on it anymore. As a matter of fact, especially with my oldest daughter, I think she actually is appreciating it now. She's understanding why I'm doing that. But the tears and the frustration, it's them just being lazy, right? They just want me to give them the answer. That is a problem that you're gonna find in homeschooling, is that because you're mom and teacher, that line gets a little blurred, right? And you want to be nurturing and you want to give them the answer, but you got to put that teacher hat on and think like, is this helping them in the long run? Like, if I'm just giving them the answer or telling them exactly which one is wrong, how are they going to be able to think for themselves? So you really have to tread that line carefully to make sure you're not enabling them to depend on you too much as mom and teacher. So I would love to know in the comments if you have any little hacks or things that you do in your homeschool to kind of help your kids take ownership of their own learning. I know another strategy that I also do is that sometimes I let my kids grade their own work. Like, I will give them my teacher's guide and I will let them grade their own work. Of course, it's exciting for them getting to, like, you know, do the little X's and check marks. But again, it's also requiring them to take a little bit of accountability. They're seeing the answer right there in the teacher's guide, comparing it to their own answer. It's making them think like, wait, why did I get that wrong? That's so important. So let me know in the comments any little hacks that you have, and I will see you all next time in our new homeschool space, which, to be honest with you, the new homeschool space is going to be that homeschool shed, that schoolhouse that you all have seen in my previous videos. But that baby is not going to be ready for several weeks, probably months after we move into our new house. So you will see me again, but you will probably just see me doing videos like in our actual house. We're gonna have to homeschool at the table for a while, no big deal. We'll just be doing videos there. So I will see you all next time.